It's that time of year. That time of year where shoes just gather by my front door. I needed to do something about it. I needed a shoe bench. So naturally I went onto Amazon and looked for stuff and found a bunch of overpriced particle board. So I decided after searching the internet to build my own. But I wanted to build it as cheaply as possible. So I made it out of a single 2x12 by 8. So for $17 I built a shoe bench, assuming you don't count the $200 to $400 table saw, the $35 pocket jig, the $100 set of circular saw and drill, which are quite old, but as long as you just have those things lying around, you can make this for $17. I decided to use a 2x12. I'd seen some plans on the internet to use a 2x10, but the 2x12 gave me a little gap. So I ripped it down into 1.5 by 1.5 squares of various lengths and made a little ladder like you see here for two sides. I used the pocket hole to put it all together. I did use a little glue. This wasn't really meant to be show furniture. I ended up finishing it a little bit better than I anticipated, but if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. I made sure to put all of the pocket holes on the inside so they were hidden, so you don't see any pocket holes or anything from the outside. Tried to measure once and cut twice. Wait, that's not right. Measure 12 times and cut 14 times. That's it. Yeah. Had a little helper because he wanted to see if his shoes would fit too. So there you go. Two little ladders and then a connecting bar right across the top. It took a really long time to drill all those holes, but it's worth it. A $17 bench, assuming you already have all the infrastructure. So there's the basics. Now I took these little 3/4 by 1.5s that I ripped out of the 2x12 and stuck them in there. I decided to keep only 3 such that water could drip down, and eventually I coated this in a Valspar or marine or water resistant polyurethane. See, 4 just wasn't enough, so I took the 4 out, ended up with 3. Look at that He-Man. Yeah, that's Flying Fist He-Man. See, even though this is a woodworking one, I still have a He-Man in the video. Isn't that awesome? So anyway, here I found that 3 just worked out better for me. It also allowed water to drip down should that happen. It also, I thought, would allow more of the foot stink to get out. Now, at this point, what I hadn't realized is I had done all the measurements based on the space I had in my house and loosely based off some things I'd seen on the internet, but I hadn't actually seen if my size 13s would fit, or if any shoes would fit, or if I'd only be able to fit 5. So at this moment right here was a giant sigh of relief because yes, I measured the space I had, but I did not measure whether the shoes would fit. So I'm not going to make you sit through the staining and the sanding, but again, $17 as long as you have the paint, $10. As long as you have the stain, $10. As long as you have the sandpaper, probably going to be about $10 in sandpaper. And of course the polyurethane. Now I use 3 coats of polyurethane, sanding in between. I'm actually trying to do a little bit better of finishing my woodworking projects. Not that this is much of a woodworking project. I mean, I know there's lots of guys who would have made this out of cherry or something, but wood's expensive, man. So I had original plans of making a plywood version with doors and drawers and all sorts of stuff, but it ended up being $17 because I didn't want to spend $100 on a 4x8 sheet of birch plywood. So here all I did was line these all up, just used my brad nailer. So again, assuming you have a brad nailer, that's going to be $30-40, and an air compressor, that's going to be $800. There you go. You always lift it up after you've brad nailed it to make sure you can destroy it. And this is why I use the 2x12 instead of the 1x10, or 2x10, sorry, because I wanted a little lip over the frame. So just drilled and countersunk some screws and drilled right into the bottom. So if we're adding up the $17 bench including all the infrastructure, would have cost us $200, yeah, as long as you have about $1,500 in infrastructure and paint and sandpaper and some other items, you can make a $17 bench out of a single piece of wood. Oh, yeah, you got to put the little feet on there. That makes it slide better on the wood floors. Plus, even though this is sped up, I wanted to make sure you all understood how difficult it is to get the back off those stupid things. Ooh, it looks pretty nice. So, there we have it. The shoes are cleaned up. I'm not tripping over them when I go out the door. And we got a nice little bench that looks custom made. Well, it is custom made for the front of our house. All for $17. So this is about the cheapest bench you could ever make. The only way you could make it any cheaper is if you stole the wood from your neighbor. I didn't do that. I bought it. That's how I knew it was $17. I think. Maybe. Perhaps.